Back again with Jeff Hamilton, and right now we're going to go ahead and talk about something that I think is very specific to you, which is the way you play brushes is kind of different than most people, and it seems to work very well. So could you talk a bit about your concept?
Some of the rules for the brush playing that I have are always make lateral strokes. So instead of a stinging sound, I prefer a lush sound as opposed to. So if you're moving side to side all the time, you'll get a smoother sound. And this ties into the rudiments also, because if you're playing, we used the Rademacher before, so instead of it's a smoother sound and it's not as harsh, so I prefer that sound on the brushes. Everybody has their own technique and their own sound, and I love a lot of great brush players who play with a more staccato sound. But for me, I like that fat sound of the lateral stroke dancing across the head, glancing.
Now, how would someone go about practicing this type of these motions?
Well, the way I did it was to completely throw away all my snare drum technique that I had learned and play improperly. And so the first roll, as kids, I don't know if we're all like this, but as kids, when they tell you to roll, I thought, it's like rolling down a hill. So you start rolling with the sticks that way. And so I found that it worked with the brushes because that was a lateral motion. You're glancing the head as opposed to going up and down straight through it. So I guess, pick up your worst technique as a kid and just kind of throw the brushes at the head and see what happens. Let them drop. Let the brushes do the work. I have them very loose. The grip is like this. I don't put an index finger out because then you have to use the entire wrist to move the brush. I talk about a fish by the tail. If you get the brush like this and just let the thing flop, then you can allow the brush to get that sound. Same thing in the left hand. Mel Lewis used his thumb. He had a long thumb, and he just sort of let the thumb take care of the brush across the head. But you can use your fingers too, this way, a la Ed Thigpen, dear friend, who showed me this kind of motion. So you get a lateral stroke this way. So that will give you that fat sound and smoother sound. Another thing I try to do is leave a brush on the head at all times for the continuity. So it sounds like there is a brush on the head at all times. So you have to achieve that by getting a little nudge as opposed to getting the accent like that. So these are little bumps in the road of that smooth sound that are accents that will help your phrasing. Another thing is to keep your hands opposite of each other. Right hand, if the face of a clock is like your drum, you have 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So your right hand should be at 3 o'clock and your left hand at 9. If your right hand's at 12, your left hand should be at 6. So there are all these motions to stay opposite of each other so that you don't start chasing yourself around the head while you're playing brushes and look ridiculous. So, which we've all done at some time or another. So if you're going to cross over, make sure the left hand goes over here, the right hand goes over to 9, and vice versa. And all these exercises can be just like this. Do this kind of thing, this way, and then backwards and forwards. Those kind of motions we don't use usually with sticks. And some of my favorite players, like Mel Lewis, let the brushes get into his stick playing. So he had this glancing blow with the sticks across the cymbals and the drums, and he was in constant motion this way, from here down. He looked like he was counting his money if you look at him from here up. But the motion was all done by the looseness of the sticks, and the same thing happens with the brushes. So I think my brush playing has gotten into my stick playing, so that I hardly ever hit a drum straight overhead. So it's more of a glancing blow like that. Keep the hands low to the head is another crucial part so that you get maximum wire contact. I designed this brush because it has a thicker gauge wire, and you can let the brushes do the work and get a smoother sound, and it bounces. Some brushes, the wires are so thin that it doesn't bounce, so you have to work hard at getting the bounce. Also, the sweep sound, you get a fatter sweep sound instead of having to press down the brush like this with a lot of thinner gauge wire. And if you do that with this brush, it sounds horrible. So that's why I designed. I don't want to put any pressure on the brush as I'm bringing it around the head. Hands low to the head for maximum wire contact instead of this. Hear the difference? So those are some things that are important in brush playing for me. Cover the entire surface of the head is another one. Some people are not real sure of themselves with the brushes, so they play right in the center of the head, and you see that oil slick in the middle of the head where they're just kind of playing it safe. So if you use the entire surface of the head, then you get more velocity around the head for more sound. In the center now. Five-stroke roll. Back to the rudiments. But if you keep your hands moving, people aren't going, he just played a five-stroke roll. They're going, wow, he just played, how did he do that? But you're moving to make it a musical phrase. So all that's connected.
So there you have it. Jeff Hamilton, lateral motions with the brushes.